All right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when this finds you. I hope you're having a great day, and let's see if I can't help you learn a little more about who to kill in this chapter. All right, so we're almost done. We last left off on slide 26. Slide 26 shows a new graphic that I'm starting to show you. It is a pyramid, we're calling it. And for now, we're calling it a food pyramid, but we'll come up with a better name soon. And you can see the bottom of the pyramid has the largest square, and that's the producers or autotrophs. And then you can see on top of that is a smaller box called primary consumers. Primary consumers are herbivores. They eat the producers or the autotrophs. And then up above in another smaller box is the secondary consumers. And the secondary consumers are carnivores. Secondary consumers eat or consume primary consumers. And then you have top level consumers here. We call them tertiary, like you see up in this graphic here. Now, this pyramid overall relates to this here. And hopefully, if you did your work on slide 26 already, you have answered the question either using the sentence structure I provided here or on your own. Anyhow, just to recap, make sure you have this done before moving on. Make sure you get this done from our last video or try to complete it now by comparing this pyramid here to this graphic here, and then just discussing it along the way. All right, thank you. All right, to the point, let's talk about new things now, right? So our ecology problems that we've been discussing this whole time, we're trying to find out what happens to a community of organisms in an ecosystem, what happens to all the living things if there is a possible extinction in the environment. We're going to continue to talk and learn about that. But we are winding down this chapter, so hopefully we've had some times to study this in class and in our notes. All right, number 2, the next thing we want to learn more about is how our bodies use or lose energy. And hopefully you've had some chances to think about your own self, how much energy you use, how you use energy, and what kind of food you're eating for energy. Hopefully you've had a chance to think about that a little more. Don't worry, in our 9th chapter, we'll really study problem 2 a lot. We'll look at it in way more detail about how our cells are using energy. It'll be a lot of fun. But until then, let's just settle for what we get in this chapter. And then, of course, our final mystery, our final scientific problem that's motivating this chapter is, can being a vegetarian reduce global starvation? And that question is specific to energy transfer. So we keep studying and talking about energy loss and energy gains. The question is if everybody were a vegetarian, would more energy be stored and provided as food to people or not? And we're going to look at that today. We're going to start looking and talking about energy flow, energy transfer, and if energy transfer would be better if we were primary consumers instead of secondary consumers. That's the question, okay? And if you've answered slide 26, you might have an idea of what a possible answer might be. So go ahead and look at your answer here to start thinking about what might be possible support for this question. What might be good information to better understand this problem? As a quick review in our notes, slide 23, we learned that energy transfer from autotrophs to primary consumers to secondary consumers, the available calories in each transfer is reduced. And if you've done your work, you've started discussing that decrease and that it decreases by 10% each step. So every time one organism is eaten by another organism, a 90% energy loss occurs. If 90% energy loss occurs, that means only 10% of the original calories at the autotroph level get transferred to the primary consumers. And you can see it started with 1,000 calories, ended in 100. So we see as we go along a food chain like this, there is an energy loss. 90% of the calories of each level are lost. And you may be wondering, well, how? How are they lost? Why are they lost? Well, we likely have done this in class already, and if we haven't, we will soon, where we study forms of energy loss along a food chain. Organisms lose energy through body heat, waste material like feces, and uneaten portions. This is how energy loss occurs. And we've also studied that only 10% of food energy is transferred each step of the way. 10% energy transfer makes it easy to calculate how much energy is available for any consumer level. We then moved on to slide 25, and that was our first time seeing this pyramid shape here that I'm calling a food pyramid. And we can see that this square is larger than the primary consumer square, and we can see the primary consumer square is bigger than secondary, and up to the tertiary level, right? Well, part of the reason why these squares are bigger is because they have more energy the lower you go. So if you're at the very bottom producer or autotroph level, you have more energy than if you were at a tertiary consumer level. So I've been discussing these pyramids because I want us to have a new word for it, and I want us to officially define it. So in your notebook, let's write slide 27, and in slide 27, let's have this definition: troph equals food. We've practiced this before. And trophic level, which means any one of these sections would be called a trophic level. Level, 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 level. Bottom level, top level, middle levels. Yes. Now, in your notebook, when you write slide 27, make sure you write this definition, and then make sure you write this graphic right here. You don't have to worry about the arrows. The arrows are fine right now. Just ignore the arrows. But draw a pyramid like this and add this graphic with the arrows here. So on slide 27, make sure you have this trophic levels. You have a trophic level pyramid, and you also have added that as the original 1,000 calories barely flows to the top, and you can see the arrows diminishing. So these are calorie arrows showing that as the 1,000 calories at the bottom autotroph level barely flow to the top level here. Remember, this is producers or autotrophs, things that use sunlight for food. This is primary consumers or herbivores. This is secondary consumers or carnivores. And this is top level consumers, the tertiary consumers. And energy flow barely flows to the top, and that's why each square is smaller, because there is fewer calories available at each level because of energy transfer. All right, here's slide 29. Now, slide 29 is a big slide because it's an activity we'll do in class. What I'd like you to do right now is write slide 29, but wait, you're only going to do a little bit on this. Don't do everything, because we'll do this in class together, okay? So for now, write slide 29 in your notebook, and let me show you this. This is important. Write slide 29 at a blank sheet of paper. So get a blank, unused sheet of paper in your notes. So find the first sheet you have in your notes that's blank or almost blank, and then as high as you can, write slide 29. And then this space right here, you're going to use this space for the information inside the box, the definition information, okay? And then you're going to save half the page at least for later calculations that we'll do in class. So right here, we want to write the info I'm about to go over, okay? And then we're going to save lots of space on that same page for us to do some work with this slide in class together. We'll do calculations together in class or with your team. So let's find out, what would we write right here for slide 29 in our notes? So let's head back up to slide 29. Only write this right here, the rules. So you're only going to write the rules, and there are 4 rules to this challenge that we'll do in class later. So for slide 29, copy these rules down. So let's see if I can help you with that. So slide 29, and then you do the rules. 1, 2, 3, 4. So write the rules down so that we have plenty of space lower for in-class calculations later. So you're going to copy these rules down from slide 29, and then we'll use these rules to do an activity in class later. All right, the rules are, first, the habitat starts with 10 million calories that get transferred from the sun, that's solar radiation, to autotrophs. So the autotrophs, or plants, produce 10 million calories from the solar radiation they receive. All that free energy just beams down across space, a light year away, all the way to these plants. Number 2 rule is insects each need 20 calories to support their life. So each ant, for a moment of time, requires 20 calories to live. These ants are eating the autotrophs, so we call them primary consumers. The 3rd rule is frogs live in this environment. So we have frogs living in an environment, and they love to eat the ants. The frogs consume ants and the frogs have to eat enough ants to equal 100 calories to survive. These are our secondary consumers in this environment. So you can see it's a food chain. Plants, ants, frogs, and then we have our top predator here, our secondary consumer, or tertiary consumer more like. It's a hawk. It's a species of hawk we have in California called a marsh hawk. They're very cool. And they need 1,000 calories in a certain amount of time from the frogs to support their life. So they're bigger animals. They need more calories. Just like humans are bigger than a hawk, we need on average about 2,000 calories. These hawks, because they're at the top of our food pyramid, you can see they're at the very top here, they need 1,000 calories. They are our tertiary or top consumer. So we have autotrophs at the bottom receiving 10 million calories. We have here at the yellow level of the food level pyramid, so this food level here, or this trophic level, would be ants. This trophic level would be frogs, and this trophic level would be the hawks, the marsh hawks, okay? So just copy down this information here, these rules, and then we'll finish the rest in class together on the rest of that page. So the rest of our work will be done at the bottom together in class. All right, here's our last slide for this video series of Who to Kill, and it is, check the graphics out. It shows you 100 kilograms of grain can feed and help 10 kilograms of a cow survive, and then that 10 kilograms of cow meat will support 1 kilogram of a person eating that. So if you do 100 kilograms of grain to feed a cow, you can support 1 kilogram of a secondary consumer like this human. However, if it says, according to the graphic, it says if you take 100 kilograms of grain and let the people eat it instead of the cow, you can support 10 kilograms of people. So the difference is people here are secondary consumers and only 1 kilogram is, or you have 100 kilograms, same amount of grain, and then the people eat it instead of the cow, you get 10 kilograms. So this is the question. If people eat plants, grains, instead of the cow eating it, how many more people can survive? In other words, can you feed more people on Earth? It says in figure 715, population and trophic levels. It says the larger a population, the more energy it takes to sustain the population. That makes sense. It says every time one organism is eaten by another organism, approximately 90% of the energy is lost. We've discussed this. It says, therefore, when countries are densely populated, they usually feed at the herbivore trophic level. So if you have a country with lots of people, they normally eat at the herbivore or primary consumer level because they don't want to lose that 90% energy loss. It says the same amount of grain can support 10 times more people at the herbivore or primary consumer level than at the carnivore level. So if you have a population of people, more people will live apparently, and countries have more people eating plants if they have a big, giant population because they don't want to have the energy loss from the cow. You may be wondering, man, very interesting, but I love eating meat. Let's look at some statistics real quick. According to the World Health Organization, malnutrition is if people are wasting food or wasting away, they're underweight, but they're getting inadequate amounts of food. Malnutrition, they're not getting enough. It says 1.9 billion adults are overweight, but 462 million people are underweight. They're not getting enough food in their countries. Look at this. 52 million children under the age of 5 years are wasted. That's a health issue. They're not getting enough nutrition or food energy. 17 million are severely wasted. Kids are stunted. So there is a world health issue of malnutrition or not getting enough calories. In fact, you can see the more dark red these parts of the world are, the more they're hungry and starving. So here's our last thing to do. I'd like you to use these sentence frames to write some ideas down about energy transfer and if humans were vegetarians instead of carnivores, okay? So just follow along, pause the video, and fill in the blanks of these sentence structures as best you can. And overall, the idea is when you answer this, you've successfully spent some time learning about our problem number 3. Now, we'll finish more of this talk and have some fun discussing this in class together. But until then, have a great day.